Hi, I'm Dustin, the artist behind Rune Art. I've been making and selling art for over 20 years. Throughout my career, I've explored various media techniques, always pushing myself to grow as an artist and develop a unique visual language. Recently, I decided to expand my focus on watercolor for my Xenos series. So I'm going to be swatching colors I have as of now, and I will be adding more colors to my collection in the future. This methodical approach allows me to fully understand the properties and possibilities of each pigment before incorporating them into my finished pieces. I've worked for a long time to expand my understanding of color theory, and the Xenos has been a way to directly study color theory for me. And this concept is so well ingrained in me that I look for ways to make it fresh again. These series challenge me to reconsider my assumptions about color relationships and explore new combinations to create visual tension and harmony simultaneously. This exploration has been present in every media I've worked in, but none have suited it better than watercolor. The transparency of watercolor creates layers of color that interact in ways that are both predictable and surprising. The way the light passes through the layers creates luminosity that's difficult to achieve with other media, and the fluid nature of watercolor introduces an element that keeps me engaged and inspired. Now, I'm terrible at looking at camera, so pardon that, but I recently did become enamored with the idea of swatching, and it's a foundational thing for me. Just like a gesture drawing or a sketch, swatching is a way to practice. Is a way to practice and understand color theory in simple forms before you go into the things that actually take a lot of time. Now, for each color, I've got a process I'm going to swatch it, but for this, we're just going to swatch the base colors and get those. We'll do some complementary and analogous swatches in future videos. I have a small sketchbook that I'm going to be using to keep the studies in the condensed area, and it's a high quality watercolor paper sketchbook by Strathmore. Now, without further ado, let's get to swatching. Chinese white is restrained and reserved, the faintest breath on paper made from zinc oxide. It became available in the 19th century as a cooler, more delicate alternative to lead white. It's subtle, semi-opaque, and prized in watercolor for soft highlights and mixing rather than dominance. In traditional Chinese brush painting, white was often implied through negative space, but Western watercolors embrace Chinese white for snowcraps, petals, and moonlight effects. It lifts easily, fades into paper, and never overpowers. It's not stage light, it's the afterglow. The margin of the page, the hush between words. Ivory black is the color of ashes and old bones. Literally. Originally made by charring ivory or animal bones, this pigment has been used since antiquity, prized by old masters for its mild transparency and deep orange tone. Today it is called bone black, and while it no longer uses actual ivory, it retains a sense of age and gravitas. It is not the absolute black of ink. It's the softer, smokier, almost brownish glaze. It grounds paintings, adds subtlety to shadows, and offers elegance over drama. This is the black of Rembrandt's underpaintings of charcoal sketches left in journals, thoughtful, dusty, and eternal. Now cadmium red is boldness incarnate. The deep heat of embers, the kiss of flame. Developed in the early 20th century, this pigment offered an answer to the fading, unreliable reds of the past. Artists like Matisse and Bacon used it liberally, and they had intensity of vermilion without the mercury. Cadmium red comes in light and deep variants, with high tinting strength and superb coverage. It's rich, opaque, and permanent. A color that takes no prisoners. Toxic? Yes, but beloved by painters for over a century. It's the red of revolutions, of passions that refuse to cool. Use with caution or abandon. Permanent rose is emotion-made color. A flush of warmth on the cheek, the last kiss before goodbye. Its vibrancy and staining power come from the modern synthetic pigment quinacridone, developed in the 1950s. Before that, artists had to rely on fugitive rose colors that faded in light. Quinacridone changed that. Suddenly, painters had access to pink that lasted. Permanent rose, with its high tinting strength and transparent glow, became a staple for florals, sunsets, and portrait blushes. It evokes daring post-war art movements, bold, emotional, unapologetically vivid. Use it where you want a pulse in the painting. It's the beating heart of a modern watercolor. Sap green is the wild heart of the forest, unruly, organic, and just a bit unpredictable. Historically, it was made from ripe buckthorn berries, giving it beautiful but fugitive transparency that faded quickly. It was widely used in Renaissance manuscripts, but artists knew it sparingly as a glaze. Modern sap green hue pigments are now synthetically derived using phthalo green and quinacridone gold, providing permanence without losing the earthy plant-like feel. It's a green that feels alive, capable of imitating new shoots, mossy stone, or light filtering through leaves. Not a neutral, never that, but a living green that pulses on the page. Olive green is the earth after battle, a color of fatigue, resilience, and camouflage. The actual olive green pigment has varied over time, but the hue version is typically a mix of synthetic yellow and black, or green pigments to simulate the signature murky tone. Olive drab became widely known in the 20th century, used in heavy military uniforms from both world wars. It represents survival and stoicism, a color that doesn't boast but endures. Artists in their naturalist and plein air traditions embraced it for the realism of landscape work. Today, olive green hue remains a utilitarian yet soulful pigment, the quiet foot soldier of any earthy palette. Now turquoise is a crossroads, where blue meets green, where sky meets water, where ancient stone meets digital glow. The color draws its name from the semi-precious mineral prized since antiquity, used in Egyptian tombs, Mesoamerican art, and Persian tiles. As a pigment, turquoise varies. Modern versions are usually blends of phthalo blue and green with white designed to mimic the mineral's serenity. Its color of sanctity and healing, but also the glam of the 1950s diners and surfboards. Turquoise spans centuries, always cool, always fresh. It evokes clarity, ocean air, sacred spaces, retro flair, a bridge between worlds, ancient and chrome. Theoviolet is a mystery incarnate, a deep, almost blackened purple that feels one part bruise, one part velvet. Chemically, it's often a quinacridone thioindigo, and modern synthetic pigment with roots in organic chemistry breakthroughs of the mid-20th century. These colors were designed for their brilliance and permanence, qualities earlier violets like manganese or alizarin crimson violet could not guarantee. Theoviolet is the kind of pigment that came into the world just in time for abstract expressionists and color-filled painters to fall in love with it. It doesn't fade, it doesn't flinch, it simply haunts a page, a color made for depth, drama, and dream states. Dioxazine violet is the drama queen of purples. Intense, staining, and straight from the lab. Korea in the mid-20th century quickly gained a reputation for its pure, rich tone and almost overwhelming strength. It's the kind of violet that leans slightly blue and feels like velvet soaked in wine. Artists use it to add depth to shadows, vibrancy to florals, or mystique to cosmic compositions. It mixes well, though its power can easily overtake less assertive pigments. Dioxazine violet is the perfect purple for a postmodern palette, unapologetic, theatrical, and entirely unforgettable. Cobalt blue hue is the sky bottled, a clean, vibrant cool that sings through the upper register of the spectrum. The original cobalt pigment dates back to the early 19th century and was prized for its light fastness and purity. It was a favorite of J.M.W. Turner and the Impressionists, especially Monet, who used it to capture fleeting blues of light. However, true cobalt is expensive, mildly toxic. The hue version, typically a mix of phthalo blue and white and other safer pigments, offers a more economical, less hazardous alternative, making it accessible to contemporary artists. It retains a classic French sky charm without the heavy metal. Payne's Gray is stormlight bottled, moody, melancholy, and infinitely useful. Named after William Payne in 18th century watercolors to create it to replace the stark blacks in skies and shadows, this gray is typically a blend of blue, often ultramarine or phthalo, and black, or sienna. The result is a cool bluish tone that adds depth without deadening the palette. It's ideal for softening outlines, creating mist, or suggesting rain in a landscape. Payne's Gray doesn't shout, it murmurs. It's the color of fog, twilight, and unspoken things. The gray of wet stones and unresolved thoughts, subtle, emotional, and indispensable. Phthalo green is a neon scream from the chemical age. Intense, synthetic, and impossible to ignore. First synthesized in 1935, it belongs to the phthalocene family, a group of pigments born in the labs of the early 20th century. Its tinting strength is legendary. A drop can overpower a palette. It's transparent, cool-leaning, and shockingly permanent. Phthalo green is the color of tropical depths and alien jungles. Not a natural green, but a heightened version of nature. It electrifies shadows. It can be coaxed into a mood of forest and tones and paired with reds or earths. Alone it is wild, controlled it is a weapon. Use it wisely. Cerulean blue is serenity embodied. The open sky on a cloudless day, the edge of a distant horizon. The pigment was first synthesized in 1805 as cobalt stanate, became commercially available in the 1860s. Before this, artists relied on delicate and unstable blues that lacked permanence. Cerulean gave them a new kind of calm, cool, opaque, and highly light-fast. Monet adored it for painting skies and atmospheric effects. It sits between blue and green, with a softness that makes it ideal for mixing shadows and tranquil seascapes. It's not a confrontational blue. It's diplomatic, timeless, always composed. Think of it as the blue that never raises its voice. Prussian blue is a color born by accident, discovered in 1704 by a Berlin dye maker trying to create red. Instead, he created the first modern synthetic pigment and changed art forever. Before Prussian blue, deep blues like ultramarine were precious and rare. Suddenly, artists had access to dark, inky blue and could describe both oceans and shadows. Hoseki's Great Wave? Prussian blue. It became a soul of romanticism, the night sky of neoclassicism, the slightly greenish and staining, unpredictable and wash, but that's its charm. This is the blue of deep waters and even deeper thought. Hansa Yellow is sunshine in a bottle. Crisp, clean, and radiant. Developed in Germany in the early 20th century, Hansa Yellow pigments like PY3 and PY74 are part of the azo dye family. Synthetic and non-toxic alternatives to a toxic chrome yellows and cadmiums that preceded them. Unlike yellow pigments in the past, Hansa colors are highly transparent in staining, making them ideal for watercolor layering and luminous washes. The Bauhaus loved bold hues like Hansa for their modern edge and clarity. It's a yellow of the industrial age, precise, bright, with a bit of mischievous fun. Think road signs, sunflowers, and a clear noonday sky. Yellow ochre is Earth's first whisper. Primal, grounding, eternal. It's one of the oldest pigments known to humanity, used in prehistoric cave paintings 30,000 years ago. Found naturally as iron oxide clay, it requires little refinement. Just crush, wash, and dry. That simplicity is part of its power. Yellow ochre speaks in sun-baked tones, the color of sandstone ruins, desert winds, and golden fields before the harvest. It was a staple of ancient Egyptian art and in Renaissance portraiture, and on the palettes of masters like Caravaggio and Velázquez. Muted, opaque, and low in tinting streak is the perfect warm neutral. It's never garish, always grounded. It tempers flesh tones, glows under glazes, and anchors landscapes with quiet authority. Yellow ochre isn't flashy, it's foundational, the color of bones beneath gold. Now, cadmium orange is a fire held in the hand, punchy, bold, and incredibly alive. It comes from cadmium sulfide, a heavy metal compound developed in the early 20th century as a stable alternative to earlier, fugitive orange pigments. It quickly became a favorite of artists like Henri Matisse, who needed strength and warmth that would hold up over time. Unlike transparent organic oranges, cadmium offered unbeatable opacity and richness. Toxicity warnings surround it. Cadmium should be used with care, but its legacy of 20th century painting is impossible to ignore. Its industrial revolution's gifts to the sunset, a flame trapped in a tube. Van Dyke Brown is the color of shattered wood, old tobacco, and forgotten libraries. Named after the Flemish Baroque painter Anthony van Dyck, who famously used dark, rich browns in his portraits, the pigment was originally made from peat or lignite soil, giving it a warm, velvety depth. In use since the 17th century, it became popular for underpainting, grisaille work, and glazing. The modern Van Dyke Brown is typically a blend of synthetic iron oxide and carbon black. It still evokes that historical richness, a color that feels steeped in varnish and candle smoke. A moody mixer, especially when cooled with blues or deepened into dramatic shadows. It doesn't just darken, it deepens. This is the brown of Baroque drama, aged wood, and echoes left in halls long silent. Now, thanks for coming by and viewing. If you want to see more of what I do, click here, and don't forget to subscribe. If you're interested in my work, go check out kruneart.com. The link will be below.